Developed on the Roaring Fork by Heng, the Autumn Splendor is a very popular woolly bugger variation. Of course it excels in the fall months, but it really does fish well year-round. Usually we're fishing this with an active streamer retrieve for trout, but it can also work very well for bass. Hey everyone, Matt here with the Northern Angler in Traverse City, Michigan. You can find all the materials you'll need for this fly and lots more at thenorthernangler.com. Once you've got your hook securely in the vise, grab some lead wire here and we're going to do about a dozen wraps. I'm just going to pinch that off with my thumbnail on both ends and slide that up into the cone. Just kind of seats it there so it's not jumping around too much. We're going to start our thread right behind that lead wire. And you can build a small thread dam if you want. We're just going to jam some materials up against this to keep it from sliding though. Bring your thread back to about the barb. And then back to the point. And that'll just create a nice little thread base for us to work with. Trim your excess. We're going to start with a marabou for the tail. And I've got two fairly sparse pieces. So we're actually going to combine two pieces. And you just got to pull all the fluff off the bottom here. Line your two pieces up so the tips are relatively close here. Not always the easiest thing to do. Sometimes wetting these will really make it a lot easier. So I've got those lined up and I'm going to measure one shank length, no longer, no shorter. So from the eye back to the bend. Transfer that measurement, loose wraps, and then tight wraps. And I'm wrapping back to the barb, kind of that point we wrap back to create a nice thread base. I'm going to wrap over both these all the way up to the wire, and that's going to fill that gap. Trim any excess, and now we have a nice consistent shank here, so there's not going to be any weird bumps along the way. Check, make sure that looks good. Next we're going to grab a little bit of crystal flash. Just going to use one piece per side here and I'm going to fold it. That way we get two pieces going down each side. Kind of creates a little lateral line. Little accent. All right, preen those back and we're going to trim that just beyond the tips of the marabou. Next we're going to tie in our ultra wire. This is brassy copper. Make sure this is secure. You're not going to get any extra chances to tie this down, and it's going to be really the most important piece, securing everything to the shank at the end. Okay, we're going to next grab our chenille. This is matching rusty brown, just rayon chenille, real simple here. To get this in, we're going to use, I'm just going to use my thumbnail here and try and expose some of that cotton core. That's what I want to tie down. That just gives us a really slim setup to work with here. Next, we're going to move our thread to about the 1/3 marks on the shank here, and we're going to grab some yellow rubber legs, and I like to work with these when they're still stuck together. So there's two right there still stuck together. I'll lay this on top. I'll put 2 or 3 wraps on top of it, and then I'm going to switch sides and kind of create this little X. I'm just going to work back and forth, and really my goal here is to hopefully get these to sweep back just a little bit. As long as they're secure, it works fine. They don't have to sweep back. I just think it looks nice. Okay, I'm working forward to the next 1/3 mark. Take another chunk of legs here. Make sure it's plenty long. Again, start with loose wraps, otherwise they're going to spin and bind and do all sorts of stuff you don't want them to. This is the step you do not want to rush. Okay, those look nice, evenly spaced. And we're not going to really trim those until the very end. Half hitch or whip finish here. And I'm gonna wet this marabou so it's out of the way. And we're gonna wrap our chenille up the shank, desperately trying not to capture too many rubber legs along the way. Doesn't have to be perfect. And at the end, I really try and cram as many wraps as I can up against the cone. That really is going to create a nice dense body and also kind of prevent any big gaps that I see a lot of times up near the cone. Secure that and trim off any excess. All right, last step here, we're going to use 2 yellow grizzly hackles from a bugger patch. You can also use saddles from Montana Fly Company. They have some great barred grizzly hackles. Just strip off all the kind of the fluff down at the bottom. And we're going to treat these just like our marabou, where we want them to line up before we tie them in. Okay. Got those to line up pretty good. And we're gonna keep following the same kind of loose wraps first to secure it, kind of establish the location before really securing it with some tight wraps. I'm cinching really hard so it actually jumps down into the cone, which is really nice. Trim the excess here. Once I've got that secure, I'm going to add a half hitch or 2. Really try and secure that. And we're going to use the rotary function here. I'm going to tension these hackles, try and get as high up as I can before I start to wrap. And I really like to pack in a wrap or 2 right up at the head, right up at the cone, before I start working back. If you have hackles long enough to do that, do so. We're wrapping back. I'm just trying not to capture too many rubber legs or anything. All right, once I'm back, I'm going to transfer my hackle plier to my left hand, grab my wire, come underneath, and at this point I can release the hackle plier because this wire has captured it, and we're just going to work our way up, going over our hackle wraps, going the opposite direction now since we started from opposite ends. Work all the way back up to the cone, capture that wire, I'm going to bring the nozzle up, and we're just going to do that classic helicopter technique. And our wire is going to break away. Grab your whip finish tool here. And I do 2 or 3 whip finishes. Sometimes they jump around on that cone. Careful. Really cinch that down. It's really tough to fit any glue in there, so whip finish is your best friend here. Trim your excess, trim what's left of these hackle tips. Try not to trim anything else. Pretty good. I think we got a nice taper here. When it comes time to trim these legs, I'm really looking for a shank length. I think that's probably about the best gauge. So, and honestly, I'd rather err on the side of a little bit longer than a little bit shorter. Fish these with a lot of twitching motion, and longer legs work great for that. Grab a bodkin, and that's how I'm going to split these legs open. Brace them against my finger, use the bodkin to split them, run up and down. And that's the autumn Splendor. Well, I hope you get a chance to tie a few of these up and give them a try on the water. If you get a chance, leave us some comments down below. Be sure to check out the links as well for a full material list and an article about how we like to fish this fly. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you'd like to see more videos like this, think about hitting that subscribe button and get tying. We'll see you soon in the shop or out in the water.